All right, and welcome to episode number 4 of Stiff Shots. I am Ryan Rainbro, joined with me as always with Rick Jimenez. And today we are going to be trying something new and different, and maybe something we'll do again, and maybe something we'll never do again. And that is reviewing this week's Raw and Smackdown, the WWE flagship and secondary shows, which maybe swapping positions there very soon. Not a whole lot of big events going on this week, and we haven't really done a Raw or SmackDown yet in the infancies of the show, so we figured we'd give that a shot and see how it goes. Leading into this weekend, of course, is Stomping Grounds, and I'm sure we'll be reviewing that next week. Rick, did you watch Raw and SmackDown this week?
I did watch both of them.
All right, well then we will. then
We'll see
jump
you
right in.
next week.
We'll jump right into this now. One thing that I kind of want to talk about this show is ever since they implemented the wild card rule, with I use the term rule loosely because they do too. Uh, the shows are kind of homogenous, and one thing that happens in one show kind of bleeds into the other, which can be good or bad. It's not really good most of the time, but instead of maybe just going in sequential order from all of Raw and then going into all of SmackDown, I'm gonna kind of connect the two. So when something happens on Raw that leads into SmackDown, we'll kind of bring that up. So it's a little bit more of a fluid story here. And I say that that's what we're gonna do, but we may start and end up not doing that. Raw opens with something that's actually a little refreshing this week. And, to be honest with you, as much as it's going to be easy and fun and uh, exhausting, Raw did a lot this week that actually I really did like. And in a bubble, this episode of Raw was actually pretty good. Unfortunately, I just don't have the faith nor the naivety to think that it will continue even until next week. But Raw did a lot of things this week that it hasn't done in the past that made me like it. And usually I'm much more of a SmackDown guy than a Raw guy, but I think Raw kind of took it this week. So it opens up doing something that's almost unheard of is they did wrestling on the wrestling show for the beginning of the show. Elias opens the show, and you think he's going to do a long-winded 30-minute promo about his upcoming. I don't even know if he has an upcoming match, but his ongoing feud with Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins just cuts him off and beats the hell out of him with a chair, and kind of sets a thread up for both shows a little bit about how anybody who aligns with Baron Corbin and wants to be his special guest referee is going to get whacked with the old chair. And they go right into a wrestling match, and not only a wrestling match between guys I want to see wrestle, and for a reason. It's a 5-way elimination match for a shot at the United States Championship. You got Cesaro, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and The Miz. So all guys who are good at their job. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I really love that they started with essentially a short promo, which wound up not being a promo at all, and then did a jump start for a change. And then, like you said, going into an actual match. I don't understand what's so fucking foreign that that has to be like an exception to the rule that they start the match without a 30-minute promo. But that was a good thing that it was finally like, all right, the wrestling show started. Let's see some wrestling stuff. And I like that it was not just a match with stakes right away, but a 5-way match that was also the elimination style. I like that so much better for the most part than just a fatal 4-way or a fucking threesome or a 4G or whatever the fuck it is. I like the elimination, kind of the ECW style. The same thing. I like all the guys in the match for the most part. Ricochet kind of got me a little bit back on the Ricochet's blah train. Him doing the code breaker in the beginning, I don't know if that's a thing he's been doing for a while. I just don't really understand why, with all the shit that he already does and can do, why he's doing a code breaker. To be honest, maybe I just can't be satisfied with anything he does, because at this point, if he does something a little more basic or a little more regular and finisher style like a code breaker, it's kind of like, hey, you're doing somebody else's shit that everybody in the world does now with the code breaker, and you're not doing all your flippy stuff. But if he's doing all his flippy stuff, then I'm like, fuck this guy. All he does is fucking flippy stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, I definitely don't like Ricochet, and this didn't make me like him any more or less. But I do think that him and Joe could at least have if not a great match, a match that I haven't seen before. And I'm sure they've wrestled each other before, but I haven't seen it, so I think that's cool. And Joe probably hurt him, so that's also cool. I like when people get hurt at their job. I like
You
workman's comp.
you know you know what I like that Joe and Ricochet, if it's within the spectrum of wrestling, if it's a realistic match, I think it's going to be really good. If it turns into Ricochet flipping around and Joe selling it, and then Joe just deciding he doesn't want to sell the flipping out of nowhere and pounds on Ricochet, and Ricochet ballerinas around the ring as if he's selling something, that match could go either way, in my opinion. But I'm hoping it's going to be a good match. I have more faith in Joe to have a good match than I do Ricochet. But I think he could carry him through it. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, "Hey, what the fuck? Ricochet doesn't need to be carried around through a match or whatever." But I think Ricochet is silly. I don't think he has any depth in his character, if he even has a character aside from flipping. And I don't think flipping is wrestling holds. The main thing that I got from this match, which I don't think is the intention to get from this match, is the way Strowman has been, I don't want to say the way Strowman's been booked, but the situations they put him in for over a year now, I think is kind of like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Strowman is huge and over and believable, and for the most part, everybody loves him. As far as I know, the internet doesn't hate Strowman. I don't think they love him. I guess maybe they're still on the fence to see if like Strowman turns into a Cena type of guy or not before they make a decision, because the internet is full of cowards who can't make decisions without each other. But I made my decision on Strowman a while ago, and I keep raising my opinion of Strowman even more because he's 175 feet tall. He's jacked and shredded. He kind of speaks like a fool, but I think it works for his character. So I think speaks like a fool is a good thing. And I think they're wasting their time putting him even in like a U.S. title picture or any picture aside from the world title picture. And I don't even think, I'm not saying that because I think anything poorly about U.S. or Intercontinental or anything, but Strowman seems like a top guy and people love him and treat him like a top guy. Why they're not pushing him, or I hate to even use those terms, like, give him the push, because I think Strowman, if he's just put in the right situation, he's going to kill it, and people are going to believe it, and people are going to love it. And I know he had that little brush with Lesnar the end of last year and the beginning of this year, but I think Strowman should be in the title picture. I don't know what the fuck they're waiting for with him, and I don't think it's bad that he didn't win this match.
Well, I thought he looked great in this match because the way he loses is the rest of the competitors have to pin him. It makes him look still like this unbeatable monster in a good way, without him taking a loss from just, getting splashed by Ricochet or whatever. I thought an interesting thing about this match, too, and I want to talk about Braun Strowman here in a second, but before I forget this, is I thought it was crazy, almost kind of a metaphor for Cesaro's career trajectory. Not that I'm one of these guys that thinks that Cesaro should be world champion, but he does this awesome thing where he picks up Strowman like he's a roll of toilet paper and slams him, and it just instantly in 3 seconds looks like the coolest guy in the world, and then just gets pinned. And it's the first guy eliminated in the match after like 2 moves. And I thought that was really weird that they did that. They were like, "Hey, man, look how sick he is." All right, he's gone. But Strowman, I definitely think. I mean, I agree with you in this, but the problem is, I think that time to do what they're going to do with him is come and gone. And if they're still going to do it in the future, they kind of got. I hate saying they too, man. I hate everything that we're saying. I hate both of us. Me more than you right now, but we'll see how that changes as the show goes. I want them to either take him off TV until they're ready to do it, or, because him losing matches, not this one, because like I said, he didn't look bad in this one, but him losing matches like a goober. He was when he had that short little heel run, all of a sudden he needed like 3 or 4 cronies to win matches, when
Mm-hmm.
before he was, picking up tractor trailers and tossing them across the room. So they really kind of cooled him off when he was red hot. I mean, the time to put the title on him probably would have been when he did have that brush with Lesnar, like you mentioned. And I don't know if you remember the Lesnar program, but Lesnar squashed him. Like he didn't. It wasn't a competitive match. There were 2 of them, and both of them he got just embarrassed in. So
I agree. I'm completely confused with where his career is going. I feel like legit. I'm not. It's hard to make a comparison. And say, hey, he's like fucking Hulk Hogan. But if you take you take all the lore of Hogan, post 84, 85, or whatever the fuck, he essentially could be Hogan. He comes in, he's just a big giant motherfucker everybody likes, but he's a face, and then he wins, and the end. And you just go from there. Obviously it's not 1984, but if you put Strowman in against the Sheik in '84 instead of Hogan, it's the same fucking thing. I'm not saying they're the same person and that they have the same exact type of
No,
charisma,
no. But to your
but
point, back like you mentioned, the internet didn't hate him, so they had this guy who they could book as winning all the time, looking awesome, over as hell with everybody. Internet didn't hate him, didn't see him as like a Cena because it's like, oh, like you said, he's 1,000 pounds and 300 feet tall, so why wouldn't he beat everybody? And they had him just running through everyone, and then he got to the title shot, got trounced a couple times, and then became this helpless goober. So, oh man, I said goober twice. This is do you remember the movie Mug Gruber with Chris Jericho?
do you remember Goober, the peanut butter and jelly combination jar?
No, I'm allergic to peanut butter, so I wouldn't have known.
Um,
So.
all right, well, Chris Jericho gave me one.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so after we have this match, Ricochet wins, and him and Joe are going to go on to have a match at Stomping Grounds with ex-ambassadors doing the theme song, which I could talk about for 30 minutes. But instead, I'm going to talk about how it goes into this Becky Lacey promo, which Becky's another person they could definitely have be on TV less, and it would do a whole lot more for her because I think she rules. But every time she's on camera, first of all, did you know that she's Seth Rollins' girlfriend? Because if you didn't, Cole will tell you. That's like,
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
which is a weird thing to, I feel like, almost a dangerous thing to have, like, be a on-screen thing so quickly, just because, like, relationships don't last. What are you doing? Then what are you going to have to do once they break up in 6 months? But I hope they are together forever and have lots of kids and very happy. But they have this promo, and South Carolina's own Lacey Evans comes out doing some weird thing where she's like kind of implying she just bangs dudes to the top, but then also segues it strangely into, I was a Marine too. Um,
She was
which,
in the Marine too.
yeah, she was in the Marine too, starring The Miz? No,
John Moxley.
starring John Moxley, which is kind of like a face thing to say. And then immediately after she's like, I'm a Marine, Becky, punches her in the face. So it's like a weird little interaction there. But as much as I didn't like that promo exchange, what I did like, which is a weird thing to like, but anything different on Raw, I'm going to probably pop for, is after this segment, they do this weird camera angle where they go from the ring down through the tunnel into the hallway into Shane McMahon's office. Like they kind of take you on the journey to where he's hanging out instead of just like, you know, splash screening and now you're in the office. They kind of take you through there, and that actually plays a part in the show later on. Anytime the show feels like it's like a cohesive television program and an actual universe, I'm on board for. So I thought that was cool. Then Daniel Bryan comes out, cuts a promo about being the greatest tag team in the world for the planet. The Viking Raiders come out and stare him down, which also seems like it may lead into something. It may not. And then they beat Tim the Toolman Taylor's son, Randy Taylor, and his brother, Russ. And then they pan to the crowd, which is also another cool part of the show. Right after the match, they pan into the crowd, and they're going through people. And I see these two people that are in costumes, but, people dress in costumes to shows all the time. So I was like, man, that's funny. That guy's dressed like George Washington. And that chick is Charlie Chaplin. And it's Carmella and R-Truth. And they do the 24/7 title spot that the shows typically have, which are they're usually entertaining. And I've really started to enjoy these. The actual title itself is kind of like whatever, and the matches don't exist, and the only thing they really try to do is schoolboy each other. No one ever tries to hit like a wrestling move on each other, which is interesting, but I thought that was cool.
I think the 24/7 title is probably the most entertaining thing on the show lately.
Yeah, between last week they had the elevator segment that went throughout the episode that was cool. This week they had, I mean, and it's really, I want to say, I want to put the brunt of the credit on Truth, but really all the people that are involved in it, which are of course like these lower class guys that never even get on TV, really are doing everything they can to make it seem important or entertaining. Speaking of lower class guys, though, immediately, I don't know why lower class seems like it's not the right term, but you know what I mean. Lower level, lower tier.
Well, it's like the wrestlers who have no class.
Heath Slater is in Shane McMahon's office, and he's like, "Hey, man, I need some more money." And Shane's like, "Hey, man, that's really brave of you to say, but no. And then what I can't tell is supposed to be like a character development for Drew McIntyre. Drew offers him money outside the office because it seems like Shane probably is like, hey, man, go beat the hell out of him. And instead, Drew is like, hey, man, will you take this money? Because I know you need cash. And, we were in 3MB together, remember? 3MB. Jinder won the world title, and you got stuck with Rhino. And then but Heath keeps on not taking the money, and it seems like Drew just gets mad that he's not taking the hint and beats the hell out of him. That was kind of the vibe I got, but maybe he was going to beat the hell out of him regardless. But he beats him up because he's a Scottish psychopath, and that's what he does. That's the end of that segment. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn host an episode of the Kevin and Sami Show with special guest Baron Corbin. And so again, the thread of the show is that starts the show off is Seth Rollins is going to take out anybody who Baron Corbin is going to try to pick for special guest referee for his match against Baron Corbin at Stomping Grounds for the title. So he takes out Elias. Later on, he takes out Eric Young, who gets to be on TV to get hit with a chair. And so Sammy and Kevin, who I can't tell if they're also going through like a character development thing, because on both this show and SmackDown, they kind of complain that they're like getting beat up for just trying to be cronies. And it seems like maybe that leads to them being like, hey, we're not going to do this anymore because it keeps on leading to bad things for us. But anyway, they're like, hey, we're not going to be the special guest referee. So Seth, no need to beat us up with a chair. And Baron Corbin's like, yeah, no problem, because referees count to 3. So I figured that somebody with the number 3 in their name needs to be the special guest referee. And I don't even know what the EC stands for. So we're going to have EC3 be the ref. He comes out, also gets beaten with the chair, and then made into a Weekend at Bernie's character, which at first, when I watched this, I hated it. I was like, come on. EC3 is this like supermodel, good-looking guy, chiseled out of stone, 225, rock solid. Because when I was at an NXT show, he put his arm around me, and I was like, man, this dude's muscles are no joke. I felt safe in his arms. He just seems like somebody that should be at least not a referee who gets beat up with a chair. But between the elevator segment again from the 24/7 segment last week and this, at least I guess he's having fun with it. I feel like he's secretly going to get over from doing all these dumb things, and it's not going to matter that he gets over. But what did you think of this?
You covered a lot of ground there, but when it comes down to it, essentially none of this was entertaining to me, and it's really kind of a bummer. Because I want to be entertained by everything. Going back to the whole Drew McIntyre deal, or I guess going back to Daniel Bryan and the Vikings. First off, I'm furious across the board that Hawkins and Ryder lost the titles last week. I think those guys, they got over on their own, and then were squashed on TV, and then got over on their own again, and they get squashed on TV. And those guys, maybe because I like their podcast and I like toys, or maybe because they're both New York guys that started in the local promotion that I watch. I like both those guys a lot, and I actually think that they're good in the ring. I think if you give them something interesting to do, they're good promos, and they're just a fun team to watch. I was really, really excited when they won the titles at Mania. I thought they deserved it. I don't understand why they would give them a spot in front of 175,000 million people live at Mania, give them the titles, and then put them on TV, twice? And they lost the titles, and they were an afterthought. So first off, that kind of makes the tag team division to me, again, like, oh, cool. Now it's what the fuck. The tag team division on both shows always has so much potential, and they kind of flirt with making it important for a week or two, and then they make it silly. I hate everything they're doing with the Revival. I think it's stupid. The Viking, you know what? I think Viking shit sucks across the board. Like, I think the tag team is dumb as hell. I think Rowan's shitty Viking metal band gimmick is dumb as hell. If it's not Thor, I don't give a fuck. The whole McIntyre Slater thing, I have no idea what they're doing with McIntyre. Like, that dude, he's another one. He looks like $1 million. He could talk in short spurts and have like a cool, intense promo. I think Slater is interesting. He almost always runs with what he's given, even when what he's given is like the dumbest bullshit ever. And a situation like this, like, they're not even really giving him anything to do, but he still goes on TV and he's entertaining. But that whole thing was so predictable and corny. Like, oh, I want a raise, but Shane's mean. He's not going to give me a raise. Oh, I'm so defeated. I'll go outside. Oh, my friend, like, hey, man, let me give you $75. Like, oh, cool. So you could do that and then fucking hit him in the head. I wonder if you're going to do that. Oh, you did that. Which I get it. Like, that's the way wrestling goes. But it was fucking boring to me and not cool. And then at that point, I was like, fuck, man, they're already losing me on the show. And I'm looking more forward to watching Starrcade 97 when I'm about to go to sleep later.
Well, that's because DDP versus Kurt Hennig, when the whole crowd throws up the diamond cutter, is way sicker than when Heath Slater gets pummeled in the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry for rambling so much throughout those things, but like you said, I mean, they're all just these kind of segments that don't really matter ultimately, and they're kind of boring. So,
and that's the thing; it's just segment to segment to segment, and then it's like when they do the littlest thing that's different, we make a big deal about it. Like, oh, it's cool that they did kind of a walking camera shot, so it looks like we're in a universe as opposed to just like watching a fucking sitcom where it's going from scene to scene. Where in all actuality, like, that is something that's so insignificant. We should never be like, oh, there was the high point after Rollins blasted a bunch of people with the chairs. This EC3 thing, God, that was the worst. So EC3 isn't selling the chair shot. He essentially, oh, I got hit with a chair. I'm going to bed. Now I'm unwakeable. You can shake me up. That's like when I used to ignore my mom in the morning when she would, wake up, time to go to school. It's like, you know what? Now I'm going to pretend like I'm dead that much more because you're fucking bothering me with your voice. I don't care.
EC3, Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, these are all guys that should definitely be at the top of the card just based on look alone. I mean, I'm not even a big EC3 fan, so I'm not trying to put him, and I'm not, I'm not a huge fan of any of those guys, but it just seems like the prototype for what they and the mass majority of fans would want to see at the top. So it's crazy that instead Baron Corbin is.
Yeah, check it out. And I don't even think they need to be at the top of the card. Put them in the mid card, but put them in the mid card and give them a fucking match. I don't understand. Like, you want to do promos and segments. You could do a 30-second backstage promo or segment or some beef and then go in the ring and have a 5-minute match. I know for years people are complaining 5 minutes not long enough, and there's too much talking. But like, that's the way wrestling, especially like, it's not a pay-per-view, it's a television show. 30 seconds of a promo, a 5-minute match. You don't have to get fulfilled on a TV match. It's all building towards an eventual blow-off, which could be another week or 2 or 3, or hey, how about this? How about even 2 months away with all these pay-per-views? When the pay-per-views, you don't actually pay for them anymore. You're paying for the network for all these other things. So the monthly pay-per-view is barely what we consider traditionally as a pay-per-view. It's not like every month there's a blow-off. Even those pay-per-views are just extending stories. So I almost rather have a 5-minute match, which is just advancing the story, as opposed to a 6-minute backstage segment, which is like not just insulting to my intelligence, but insulting to my brain because it fucking blows. But, this elimination tag team and special ref bullshit, like, I don't give a fuck about any of this stuff. And, the most important thing about the day that came up to me is that on Monday, it was the 26th anniversary of Last Action Hero, which is an underrated movie with a great soundtrack. But I didn't turn the Raw off to watch it, but I considered it.
Do you pick Last Action Hero over End of Days in the Schwarzenegger universe?
Oh, yeah. 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
I definitely pick the movie over End of Days, but I don't know about the soundtrack. Although the soundtrack for Last Action Hero isn't just for like 80s metal and stuff, so you definitely would pick that over Limp Bizkit and Everlast.
You know what else I'd pick? Any chance for Eric Young to get decimated with a chair?
Yeah, that actually is cool. And in fact, Rollins should have clarified that he just actually blasted him, not for being potentially the guest referee, but because at nearly 40 years old, or maybe older than 40, I don't know how old Eric Young is, he decided to get a full back tattoo.
Yes, a really sick back print.
One thing that I did, again, think that was cool at first until it ended up not being cool was that the 6-man tag between the New Day, who come out during the Sammy and Kevin show, we should have mentioned, and that EC3 is the referee for. It's the New Day versus Sammy, Kevin, and Baron Corbin. Was a 2 out of 3 falls match, which is kind of a unique stipulation to have. And I thought it was cool for the first 30 seconds before they did one of the falls being a count out, and then I really stopped thinking it was cool when the next night on SmackDown they did the exact same thing.
Why fucking bother? Especially with the match they did the next day on SmackDown. I understand, like, hey, it's the two champs, so they should go over twice in a row, and that logic is kind of cool. But the first fall happening immediately and then them sweeping, and then again, like we said with Owens and Sammy, like, I don't understand what's going on. And I really think sometimes maybe I try to understand where the story's going more than just enjoying it as it's going.
Well, speaking of stories going, and the tag division that you mentioned is abysmal, but should be amazing because it has so much talent in it. One of the segments that I really did like that was a backstage segment was Alan Jones Styles is in the back, and they do another weird camera thing where, like, before they show AJ, they show all the posters on the wall to let you know that it's a doctor's office.
The anatomy of the brain.
Yes, the anatomy of the brain poster. Huge pop for brain anatomy. But Slam Master Jay's muscle, Festus, and Carl Anderson, formerly of the Bullet Club before it was a kiosk in your local Hot Topic, come into the screen. And AJ just kind of lets them know that they should be really good, but they actually suck. And it seems like that's going to lead to something because he goes, yeah, the best tag team in the world are the Usos, not you guys. And there's a lot of things in this segment that actually are legitimately funny, which it's rare that WWE is funny on purpose. So me actually laughing at this was interesting. But you think that's going to lead to some sort of, resurgence of the club or whatever they use to secure their steering wheels in their cars. But the Usos trounce them in like 2 minutes. So I don't know if ultimately they do realize, like, hey, we suck, and then have some dark turn. Or it probably doesn't lead to anything, which is the real bummer about watching either of these shows, is that it ultimately, you can't have optimism about it. It's foolish, too. It doesn't have the goodwill that NXT has built up. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss have a conversation where basically, and there's also this weird story going, not weird, that's not the right word, but this convoluted story going on where, like, it looks like Bayley's making fun of Nikki on the internet, and Alexa, it appears to be kind of manipulating Nikki to help her. But they have this weird gray area that we'll talk more about SmackDown here in a second, where it might be that actually Alexa is secretly the face and Bayley is actually the heel. It would be an interesting dynamic because Alexa is just so over. They later on will have a match with the Iconics, and during the match, Bayley comes out because she's mad at Alexa for, in theory, making up this stuff about her making fun of Nikki, and ends up, inadvertently or not, costing Alexa and Nikki the match, because when Alexa could be breaking up a pin for Nikki, Bayley drags her down and starts pummeling her, which kind of makes it look like Alexa's right. So now they have this thing where, Nikki is really on Alexa's side, really hates Bayley. I would love for the end result of this to be that actually Nikki Cross is the master manipulator and that she's the one making up all the rumors about Bayley saying stuff about her just to get a friend so they can ultimately get championships. But that's a thing that happened on the show.
Yo, every fucking match ends with a distraction into a schoolboy. Hate it! I fucking hate it! I straight up said out loud, I was watching by myself, and I said out loud, God, you're fucking kidding me with this shit again? I'm about to be 39 years old, and I'm watching this television show that I am supposed to love, and I do in the macro sense, and I'm yelling at my fucking television screen because the ending of every match is the same. Somebody distracts someone, and then the schoolboy. So this match has the same finish of every 20 of Drake Maverick to R-Truth in the parking lot. The only difference is that Drake put his feet on the driver's seat for leverage, which is actually hilarious.
It's so funny that he uses he cheats in a match that has no rules. It's so cool. And then the continuity of when he drives away, he goes, I'm getting married, I'm the champion, is the best. And the only way that I will be tolerant of the end of that saga is that Drake Maverick in his real life wedding loses the championship to R-Truth again. I will not rest until that takes place. I will make Drake Maverick get married multiple times until he does it correctly.
Did you see that Drake Maverick's fake boobs fell out and there was like a one single tit laying on the ground next to R-Truth?
There were both of them, both of the little
Oh, I only saw one. I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I think Graves mentioned it. Someone said something about a part of his anatomy fell off, but that was funny as hell.
I
I
know
was hope-
Graves mentioned that he's legally not allowed to get hit with a chair.
I was hoping when Maverick drove away talking about getting married and Truth is like, Carmella, you're getting married. I was hoping Graves was going to say something about that because I know about what's really going on.
Yeah, I also have the internet and the World Wide Web. There's 2 or 3 more segments left on the show, and then we can complain about SmackDown. But another part of the show that I genuinely did like is playing off the beginning of the show where they do the weird camera angle through the hallway, blah, blah, blah. Roman Reigns is in the ring, and he's like, hey, Shane, I'm going to kick your ass. And Shane's like, no, you're not, because I'm on the screen, and I'm not in the ring. And Roman's like, well, I watched the show earlier. I know how to get to your office because the cameraman took me on a journey. And he goes through the tunnel and does this weird, like, almost like Daredevil hallway boss fight where he's walking through the hall and beats the hell out of the Revival. He gets into the room and beats up Drew McIntyre. Shane runs out to the ring and gets his ass kicked. And looks like as soon as Reigns comes into the room that he's worried he's going to get his ass kicked, which is how he should be. He's this 50-year-old non-wrestler who should be very aware he's in over his head and just playing wrestler. But too often he gets positioned as like an actual character, which is something Miz brings up on SmackDown. We'll get to in a second. But I really did like the whole way that it played off the beginning, and that Shane got beat up, and that it legitimately made Roman look cool for someone who gets so much flack because he just looks like, he's a unstoppable jerk. He should be able to beat up a bunch of cronies and the boss's son, and so I thought that looked sick.
I love that Reigns is actually kicking ass and the crowd is fucking finally behind him. It's funny because I historically don't really like Shane so much. I think this whole heel run of Shane is actually really good and it's working for him finally. But I think it's the part that I hate to admit is maybe a couple of months ago, I was like, when Shane came back and he was kind of acting as a heel, but still portraying himself as a face. And I really, really despised him. I thought he looked like shit. I thought he was bloated and, was just doing his typical shit. Now, I think Shane looks like he's in like really good shape.
Are you kidding me?
For
You
him.
are actually making a joke right now. He looks like he's blown up standing in that backstage room. He's in really good shape in the sense that he's definitely taking steroids, so he has a vein coming out of his arm, but his skin is red before he's even moved.
Well, I'm not looking at his face. I'm looking at, like, he has a huge tricep right now, which is cool as hell to me. I think the fact that compared to even, like I said, like maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I don't think he looks as much like a fat bastard as he did.
You're wrong. You need to look again.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention because I was yelling at Bailey and organizing my watch list because I was more excited about watching the fucked up Sting and Hogan match from '97.
Shane, when he is doing anything physical, meaning moving whatsoever, looks like he's in worse shape than Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
All right, well, you know what? Fuck Shane McMahon. I don't give a fuck about that guy.
That's the spirit. But you know what? I will say this, that you bring up a good point that I really didn't consider because I have hated this Shane heel run so much because he keeps on not getting his comeuppance. He had 2 pay-per-view victories in a row over Miz. He had a victory over Roman Reigns. The end result should be him just getting obliterated. It does look like it might be getting Roman over, finally, which is sick because I like Roman. And it led to the face turn of Miz where he's really running with it and doing a great job. So there are some pros to it, mostly cons. And speaking of cons, as far as conniving, man, great segue, professional podcast. Firefly Funhouse is aired next, which better be the last one because these are great and all, but eventually you gotta go to the ring, bud. They have a new t-shirt for every Firefly Funhouse that they've done. I haven't checked to see if they put one out for Monday, but I'm guessing that they did. What do you think about these overall instead of this one in a bubble? Are you loving the Firefly Funhouse like everybody else is?
Yeah, I love these. I don't know what they're going to do with them next, and I think I'm almost starting to not like him as much because I'm worried about how they're going to ruin it once it translates into the ring. And that's such a shitty attitude to have, I know. but I just don't have faith in them turning this really cool and interesting and almost kind of different character and personality and all this shit into a wrestling angle. I think it's going to very much wind up being like Kane when that movie came out. Hey, I'm a face, I'm a face, I'm a face. Oh, I did this movie. Oh, I'm a bad guy. Look at my hook. Like, I'm kind of my movie character. Isn't that cool? Nobody saw the goddamn movie except for Dan Tur. So I know everybody is loving these promos. I love these promos. I think every time I feel like it's going off the rails in like not a good way. It is like, oh, it's even better than I thought. Him crushing Rambling Rabbit, that's great. It's those characters are so funny and ridiculous, and I love how he's doing the voice, or Bray is doing the voice for all these puppets, and they all have these like stupid personalities. I love the Waylon Mercy jab with the dinosaur or chicken or whatever the shit that thing is. But how it's going to translate into the ring, they have to really, really do something different, like something that is so different out of the box that like neither one of us are going to be like, oh yeah, he's going to come in and be kind of like this guy or that guy. He's going to be a real bad, crazy guy. Like they need to do something different, something that's kind of essentially never been done to capitalize on all the great work that these promos obviously had put into them.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of why I wish they would just hurry up and do it so I can either be right or pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I just want them to pull the trigger. The final segment of the show is a cock tease of a main event between Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins, which is probably the best match a human being can fathom with 100% of their brain. But when I say cock tease, I mean that in two ways. One, it gets interrupted by a disqualification. So immediately I'm also yelling at my television and deciding which match of Starrcade 97 I'm going to watch. But then they trick me in a good way and they restart the match. The only negative side there is that instead of getting the 20 minutes it could have gotten, you get about 5 to 10 minutes, but it's 5 to 10 minutes of Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins. So I'll take it. So I thought that was kind of cool in the sense that we got the match actually, but not cool in the sense that it could have been better and longer with two guys that know how to use that kind of time. And the show ends with us not knowing who this guest referee is going to be, which is kind of the whole point of the show happening in the first place. Baron Corbin comes out and beats Seth Rollins down with the chair. And that's Monday Night Raw. Tune in this Sunday.
I thought the mid-match locker room clear out tag team schmaz thing was really, really strange. I kind of almost don't even understand how that fit in to the match. It seemed completely insignificant to what was going on. But either way, I was like, what the fuck is this? But whatever. And just like you, pleasantly surprised when they restarted the match. I thought at one point Rollins did an enziguri that Bryan countered and put into an ankle lock, and I thought that was super, super cool. I really enjoyed that. And I was ready to enjoy the rest of the match, despite the short time that it had, which, like I said earlier, that doesn't bother me for a TV match. I'm totally fine with even a main event being a 5 or 6 or whatever the fuck minute match. At one point, Rollins did the superplex and then went to go into the Falcon Arrow, and Bryan completely no-sold the superplex, and that just pissed me off so much. I wanted so much for this match to not have anything of that nature, and I don't think that that's either their styles, and I don't know if they were just trying to fit too much into their short amount of time, but the superplex, especially, that's one of Rollins' signature things now, is the superplex into the Falcon Arrow. And Bryan just kind of taking it and then no selling it and going on afterwards, bummed me out. But what I did like was that there was a clean finish to the match. I was not expecting that at all. So there was a lot of things that were unexpected with this match to me. Some of them good, some of them not. But the Corbin thing at the end, it makes perfect sense as the go-home edition for the main event. But it just seems so blah. Rollins is beating up Corbin's potential refs, which Rollins running around hitting everyone with chairs. The psychology behind that, I think, is really cool. I think adding that type of element to Rollins' character is fun. But the searching for a guest referee thing is so not interesting to me. It just fucking blows. Unless there's some crazy payoff with that, to me, the whole thing is going to be really dumb. And I don't think it's going to be any crazy payoff. It's probably just going to be some guy.
You don't think it'll just be Lesnar? That's what I feel like is the whole, like, it's Lesnar. And now, as soon as Rollins wins, then will he cash in his money in the bank? We don't know. It's crazy. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, I guess that's unpredictable, but
Do you like that Seinfeld voice? Before we go any further, how do you like that Seinfeld voice? What's the deal with the money in the bank briefcase?
it's better than a fucking another schoolboy finish.
Yeah, it's about the same.
I think putting the Lesnar as the ref for any of the match is the really not fun idea.
Whoa! Well, before we get into Smackdown Live, it looks like we got a run-in.
All the way from Western Canada, north of the border and the muddy banks of Wishka, my former tour mate, my in-ring mentor, Canadian punk rock icon, and hardcore legend in his own right, the freshly licensed, so possibly the newest member of the Fast and the Furious family once he knocks out John Cena, the loose cannon, handsome Kenny Lush.
Hey guys, I'm stoked.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we're all good friends, but that doesn't make us like you or respect you any less. We are excited to get your unique perspective. Kenny, on top of being a punk rocker in bands such as Daggermouth and recently Punitive Damage, which is actually one of my favorite releases of the year, you also are a seasoned professional wrestler for years, probably just as long, if not longer than you were a rocker. Is that true?
Longer. Yeah, I trained in 1999 and and then I stopped in about 2003 because I wanted to start a band and Daggermouth started, and then I toured that whole time. And then when Daggermouth broke up in early 2009, I got back into wrestling.
Recently, you know, legends of the 90s, Undertaker and Goldberg faced off in Saudi Arabia for WWE in a highly publicized match, both before and after the match for different reasons. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion about whether or not those guys should even continue going on. They're past their prime. They don't know if they should retire or not. And a lot of people would say that they should retire. And as somebody who probably should be retired by now, but still does wrestling shows all the time, I thought we would get your perspective on what you think about people that say that about talent, and also what you think about those two people, specifically The Undertaker and Goldberg.
Okay. That was one of the worst fucking matches I've ever seen in my whole life. And I've seen some like bad, like, you know, bingo hall matches in my life. But like, you can't fault these dudes because they're, you know, like, it's money, right? But yeah, like, you can't really fault those guys because they're obviously the king of Saudi Arabia or whatever they have, the Shah Hackmeyers of fucking Saudi Arabia is giving them a lot of money. So, you know, so they got to get paid. Like, I wouldn't turn it down. You know, no one would turn it down. But at the same time, that match was fucking complete garbage. And I don't think Goldberg's ever been good. Like, I've seen it happen a million times out here on the West Coast where, like, because you got, like, put it this way, I've been in, like, the BC wrestling scene for a while. And, like, I've seen the Kyle O'Reillys and the El Phantasmos, and those guys all come through the schools. And they're like, oh, yeah, but you're just so small. And then some fucking juice monkey, you know, 6'4" juice monkey guy who's, like, 35 years old and wanting to train to wrestle comes into the training school, does like 4 lessons, and then they're like, you're ready for a show. You look great. Like,
now, when you say the BC wrestling scene, you're talking about before Christ?
No, Brad.
No, the beautiful British Columbian.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about it was so long ago that it was the BC era of wrestling.
But, you know what I mean? Like, so Goldberg's like that guy that did 4 classes and then was like, you got a great look. You're ready to wrestle. Like, I don't know if he ever fucking learned how to wrestle. Like, I don't know. I was never a fan. Even when I was a kid, I always thought that shit sucked. And then you got The Undertaker, who's the most fucking, in my opinion, the most overrated wrestler of all fucking time. You know who Undertaker should take every cent of that Saudi Arabia money and give it to? Mick Foley for falling off that fucking cage, because that's the only thing that made Undertaker legitimate.
Wow, that is a stiff shot
That's
from the loose
stiff
cannon.
as hell.
Dude, people like, oh man, how can you say that? You watch those early fucking WrestleMania matches, like his first like 8-0 where he went unbeaten. The shit was so bad, dude. Like the shitty flying clothesline that he beat. Who'd he beat with the shitty flying clothesline? That was in like WrestleMania, like his third one or fourth one that he did. It was so bad. Maybe it was King Kong Bundy, I think he beat with a flying clothesline.
Yeah, because he couldn't tombstone Bundy. He probably couldn't tombstone Bundy's LJN figure. That thing is a fucking murder weapon.
I actually have the unpopular opinion that not Goldberg, that The Undertaker didn't have a good match until he started dressing like my girlfriend's dad's and coming out to Limp Bizkit. As a character, I always thought he was cool, but I'm saying I never thought there wasn't an Undertaker match that I saw that I was like, wow, this dude's sick, until at least Big Evil, This Is My Yard, I wear bandanas, and really, really like Kid Rock. So I'm with you on that as far as him being overrated. And, people often say, though, that, he's like a locker room leader.
Oh, fuck. Don't even get me started on that. Whenever I give my opinion on The Undertaker, it's some fucking loser go nowhere, a peer of mine, because I'm probably the same fucking guy. But some guy in a fucking dressing room that's like a fucking custodian closet in some community center hall's like, well, he's actually quite the locker room leader. How the fuck do you know? Like, are you there? Like, he has this reputation of being like this great locker room leader, and every indie guy in the world will tell you that. But like, I'm pretty sure none of them have ever been in that locker room as he's doing the speech, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, they're not in a locker room with The Undertaker. They're in a broom closet with Kenny Lush.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it.
And you know who's not a good locker room leader? Me, because I'm just wanting to get paid, do my match, and drink a beer.
So it's not that you don't think The Undertaker is good in general. You just think he's overrated. So it's not that he's bad. He's just not as good as people seem to think that he is. Is that right? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, he's on par with Kane. Like, he can fucking hold his own in a 6-minute TV match. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you say he's on par with Kane, you mean that he has as good of acting skills as Kane in the movie Countdown, starring Dolph Ziggler, where they go backstage to a WWE show and Dolph Ziggler thrust kicks Rusev to try to find the bomb that's hidden in the arena. That's what you're talking about?
I've never seen that, but now I got to.
Man, you actually do got to. You're right.
I don't think you have to.
No, you got to.
I also want to talk about, because you saw a lot of people shit talk Goldberg about this match, right? Like, like how he hurt The Undertaker on the jackhammer because he was concussed. And, he took a pole with his head. Like, first of all, wrestling's not to break the news to anyone. Put a fucking hand up, Goldberg, you mark. If you notice, how come none of these people have mentioned that when Goldberg goes for the jackhammer, go back and watch the footage. Look where the Undertaker's hand is. He's not even posting. He's not even posting for the suplex.
You think he bagged him, huh?
Oh, he fucking mad sandbagged him. He didn't even post up. Just post. A fucking suplex is the easiest move to go up for.
It's funny because last episode we talked about this pay-per-view, and I was saying the whole lead up to this match, I could not be more disinterested in. And then I decided before the match started, I'm going to like this match no matter what. I'm going to enjoy it no matter what. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I just kind of felt sad for both of them. And Undertaker didn't care who the fuck in the world knew how pissed he was. And I was like, that's kind of, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I think it just speaks volumes on WWE at the moment. Like, they don't really have any stars anymore. Like, I know WWE is the name, is huge, and it's probably the biggest it's ever been as far as money-wise and all that shit goes, right? But, like, they're having to keep reaching into, like, the fucking 90s Attitude Era bag and grabbing these guys for these headliner spots. Like, I don't want to watch another Triple H match ever, like, straight up. Triple H really likes Motorhead. Leatherface, the band from the UK, is way better than Motorhead will ever be. But anyways,
all right, we'll cut that out. Well, that's another thing I was going to ask you about. So Triple H is also on that Saudi Arabia show with Randy Orton, and Triple H also, of course, it's no secret, is a in charge of operations of the company. And now recently we have AEW starting up, where Cody is an active participant in matches and also in charge of booking. So how do you think that plays? Do you think that somebody, once they take that office role, should retire from the ring, or do you think that it's okay to have them simultaneously involved? Or do you have any
I got
as a wrestler, you have a unique perspective of being the talent, so you know that you're going to know and see things a lot differently than me and Rick would.
I think it'll be weird for Cody Rhodes. Like right now, like on the indie scene, you know what I mean? Or at the Ring of Honor level, like you got your clicks and you got your, like he's a cool guy. He's getting everyone signed. Everyone's happy, and they're stoked. And, as they should be. And it's awesome. But I think as business goes on, let's not face facts. They're all pro wrestlers. Eventually, when one guy gets asked to do a job, they're going to start shit talking Cody to all the other guys that had to do jobs that night. And that's how the business is. It's like a bunch of little catty girls all gossiping, It's hard to compare him to Triple H, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think at like where WWE is right now, they need to start having the young guys or whoever they got start pinning the Triple H's and shit so they can build new stars and everything. Whereas I think the fans of AEW will view every wrestler as a star. You know what I mean? It seems like everyone that signs to AEW is already like in internet Reddit, like that guy's the best,
Yeah, it's kind of like the top indie guys from the world making their first mainstream kind of splash.
Yeah. And I'm excited about, what they have. And I like that last pay-per-view that they put on. I didn't watch it all, to be honest, but I watched the final few matches and stuff. And there's just so much wrestling to watch. And if there's a company that I tend to try to follow the most, it's New Japan. So it's hard to watch everything all the time. But yeah, it'll be weird to see once they put a TV product out how a lot of these dudes are going to carry out, like, I don't know, like, can they cut promos? Can they do TV stuff? You know what I mean? It's going to be hard.
I think the TV deal is going to show a lot, not just strengths, but also weaknesses. Can the Bucks do weekly television and not turn into a complete comedy act? Or, can Kenny Omega go on TV, every single week and put sentences together and, build intrigue towards a match instead of just his big name versus somebody else's big name in a month and a half, and then you order the show. It is definitely is going to be interesting, very telling.
Yeah, for sure. Like right now, AEW to me feels kind of just like a bigger version of PWG. You know what I mean? Like PWG runs like once every 2 months or 6 weeks or whatever the fuck they run. And they used to run that little community center in Reseda, California, and tickets would go up. They would sell out in an hour or 2 hours or whatever. They'd be gone. And, it's just great work rate guys. And it's just match. And it's, it's awesome. But, I think, and that's kind of what AEW is right now, except on a more money level. Whereas once they get TV and everything, that's where it's really going to show what happens if those, are those fans going to, like you see a lot of, like, I know the pay-per-view did great numbers and stuff, but a lot of these people are still backing them. I'm AEW for life. Like, they're all fucking just bootlegging the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Like they, are they going to tune in and watch the show and give it ratings, or you know what I mean? Like we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I think more importantly than that is, can they get new people that don't already love these people to watch the show? Because we're talking about, can the Bucks not devolve into a comedy act? Can Kenny Omega string sentences together? He already can't speak like a human being, and they're already a joke, but people love them regardless, and they're going to continue to love them. So the question is, can they get new people that don't already think that they're awesome and will see them as what they are to still watch that show? As much as they talk out of both sides of their mouths that they don't want to compete with WWE, and then they're smashing thrones on stage, WWE, even on a bad week, gets 2 million people watching it.
Yeah.
Their free YouTube show that they kind of built their popularity off of, they meaning AEW, the Elite, Cody, the Bucks, all them. A good episode of that might get 200,000 views, which is not nothing. It's great for a YouTube show. That's not good for a cable network show. That's not good for a TNT, a TBS. So unless they can actually grow that audience from people that can watch it for free anywhere to people that are going to go out of their way to watch it on TV, then there's no way that they can really survive in the way that they're anticipating.
Yeah, and did they, I kind of feel like at the level that they're going at, it like AEW to me feels like what Vince McMahon's trying to do with the XFL and go after the end. You know what I mean? Like he's like, oh, we're not competing with the NFL, but like, you know what it is, right?
Right.
It's, so we'll see what happens. Like I'm stoked. Do we know what the time slot is they got? Like it's on TNT, right? From what I gather. And
we don't know the time or day. No.
I remember hearing rumors a little while, maybe about 2 months ago, that
like a Tuesday or something? Or?
that they had trademarked Tuesday Night Dynamite.
Oh, okay.
But
because I read Tuesday too somewhere, so maybe
that sounds like a joke and a parody of Monday Nitro. So
that name is not good at all. But at the same time, if they do the show and it's great, you won't question the name. You know, in all actuality, a lot of, think of any band you like, the band name is terrible, but you don't question it because you like the band.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to say or plug before we let you go, Mr. Lush?
No, I just want everyone to look back at The Undertaker's career and go back and carefully study it and realize that he was basically carried the entire time, and that's why Mick Foley now walks with a really bad limp.
All right, my man. Well, we definitely appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully we'll hear from you soon, and we will talk to you later. Are you ready to talk about Smackdown previously recorded?
Oh, the best thing about it is it opens up with the world's greatest wrestler.
Oh, not only is it the best wrestler ever, but it's him talking for 20 minutes in this drama school, overemphasized vein pulsing out of his forehead promo. I do like calling him Dolph Zebra, though, so the fact I got to say Dolph Zebra, as in Dolph Zebra, get off my TV, to myself, to no one, was cool.
Yeah,
but
Zebra's in America with that his fucking tights. That should be his new gimmick. I'd be more into that if he came out and faced off against the cat vigilante who could see through fucking wooden doors. That'd be more interesting than the it should have been me shaky voice bullshit he's doing.
I think he should come out against the cat Ernest Miller.
Well, I would be really excited for Ernest Miller to do anything on television.
Unfortunately, SmackDown opens how all of these shows typically open, which Raw was a breath of fresh air with, and that is just with a long, drawn-out promo. But then Xavier Woods faces Dolph Ziggler, and Ziggler wins with a thrust kick. We don't say super kick unless it's the Young Buckaroos. Xavier Woods is someone I do not like, and I mean, I'm really happy for him that he's one of the very, 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 very few people that play video games and like Pokemon. But there's a reason why Kofi is the champion and Big E is the one people wish was. But, I need to back up because during this New Day promo, one thing that I've really liked about Kofi as champion, that he's been consistent with since he became champion, is one, he talks a lot more now because before it would be Xavier Woods talking. But two, whenever he does these promos, he always brings up history, whether it's recent history or ancient history. He knows that things that have happened on the show in the past should matter to the present. So, for example, he brings up the fact that he's already beat Kevin Owens. He's already beat Dolph Ziggler. He brings up Dolph Ziggler's talking about how he's going on and on about, how he's going to have him all alone in the steel cage. And Kofi's like, I'm the one who asked for the steel cage back. It's like, what are you talking about? He brings up a couple weeks ago, he pointed out that Dolph Ziggler won the U.S. title and then just pieced out. So what is he complaining about that he didn't get opportunities? So I really appreciate that when the wrestling show remembers things that happen on the wrestling show. And it's crazy that it's something that I even have to appreciate and not just something that is a given. But that is one thing that Kofi has been really good about in his whole run. But Woods and Ziggler have this match. Ziggler wins. Who cares about either one of them? The most important thing that happens before this first commercial break is that Shelty B803, South Carolina's own Shelton Benjamin, that's two shows with two South Carolinians on it, is looking jacked in this hallway scene. I don't know if you saw it. he's wearing some sort of compression shirt or something, but he is just looking swole. And Matt Hardy is on the show for some reason for 3 seconds to call him Senor Benjamin. I don't know if they flew him from North Carolina to California to make a reference to his Impact Wrestling YouTube video, but that's probably my favorite part of SmackDown as a whole is how sick Shelton Benjamin looked.
Well, I think Matt Hardy is cool as hell. What, he's having a baby? He's having another baby?
He is having another baby. Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be the third one with Queen Rebecca.
So, hey, that's cool. So maybe they just wanted to put him on TV to show his unborn baby that he has a job. I think Benjamin he's cool as hell. And I really wish that there would be something he could do aside from just show up every so often and kind of be in either a complete throwaway position like this, or a couple months ago he had a match and it essentially meant nothing. I think Benjamin's really good. I think he looks, like you said, he looks like $1 trillion still, but I don't know. There's just nothing that he's done since his return to WWE, and even before he left WWE in his first run, that's really been memorable. Remember that whole thing with his mom?
Yeah, I wish I didn't remember. He had a pretty
What?
good run in WWE ECW. Him and Christian had a lot of title matches for that brand that I thought were good. I think he was in a lot. You know, he was one of those key players, kind of like Kofi's been in recent years for like ladder matches and things like that. You know, a trusted hand for things like that. But I agree with you. He never had like a super significant run in WWE like he probably should have. I thought they were gonna pair him up with Lesnar here earlier on because I feel like that's maybe the match you're referencing. Man, I wish I could remember. I'm sure it was either Roman or Seth that was feuding with Lesnar.
If you don't remember, you should just ask Kofi Kingston.
I'll just ask Kofi Kingston because he is keeping track. He's a wrestling historian. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love Shelton Benjamin. I liked when he was doing the tag team with Chad Gable being the new Jason Jordan, and now Apollo Crews is going to be the new Shelton Benjamin because Chad Gable only scouts other black guys to be his tag team partner, and I like that. I mean, we can talk about that now. Apollo Crews comes to look for Andrade. I don't know if it's to be confrontational or what, but Andrade just annihilates him, and then Chad Gable with that haircut you like a lot is just standing in the corner taking notes about it. So that's cool.
Well, I think Andrade, he just slithers around.
Oh my God, Andrade is the snakest of slassest. He could do whatever he wants. He can beat up anybody he wants at any time, and Zelina Vega can cheer him on because that guy is one cool person.
Yeah, he rules. I think I wish Cruz could have something sick because I think same thing. He has so much potential. There's so many guys here that they could have a solid mid card. You know, this is the type of thing that, don't get me wrong. I've listened to Vince Russo's podcast a handful of times, and I think Vince Russo is a complete fucking jack off. I think he did a lot of good things when he was writing, and he did a handful of stupid things when he was writing WWE.
Did he know?
Of course, he did only great things in WCW. Anyway, Russo's main thing, which if you listen not just to his podcast, but everybody else's, whether they love him or hate him, he always made sure everybody had stories, mid card, lower card, top of the card. So that's the type of quality that I wish that whoever's writing, booking, whatever the fuck, would put some solid time and effort into some of these mid-card guys. Benjamin, Andrade, Cruz, Gable, R-Truth has it right now, which is awesome. But it's R-Truth and then a bunch of whatever the fuck's running around trying to get, the fucking penny on a string belt. But I like that at least it hints towards these guys have something going on. Andrade, hey, I kick ass and I have this little smart, hot manager. Cruz is trying to get something going. He gets attacked while trying to get something going. Gable is scouting around the corner and writing shit down in his little notepad and his dumbass haircut. I think it's really, really cool. Gable has a ton of potential. I think he's great on the mic. He's a good character guy. It seems like whatever character he's I don't want to say burdened with, whatever character he's given, he runs with and always kind of does it well. And his in-ring work, as far as I'm concerned, is always great. So I think this whole segment was 45 seconds? Something like this, I think, could have been followed up with, if not a match after this segment, but another segment later. Cruz could have came into the ring. Hey, motherfucker, you're going to attack me from behind? Let's have a match right now. They could bang out a 4-minute match. Hey, both these guys get some quick TV time, and they have a program going on. Instead, this happens, and most likely, we'll never hear from Cruz and Andrade together ever again. And maybe next week, Gable will be, taking notes on somebody else.
There's only 2 more matches even on the show, I believe. But before the next match, I guess there's 3. But before the next match, we have the Moment of Bliss segment. And I don't know if I liked it as much as everyone else did, but I actually did like it between Bayley and Alexa Bliss, where Alexa takes a lot of... You know what? I think she's just a fan of the show because she's taking a lot of stiff shots at Bayley here, saying that she's actually not really this nice person. She peaked in NXT.
She works at Forever 21.
She works at Forever 21. She doesn't know what good coffee tastes like, and that she always loses to Alexa, which is all, as far as we know, true things. I don't know why she wouldn't work at Forever 21, especially with the employee discount. The crowd really seemed like they were on Alexa's side at the beginning, and then we're kind of on Bayley's side at the end. And I like having that little bit of gray area. I don't think it always works, and I don't think it should be in every feud, but then something like this where Bayley needs more of an edge anyway, probably doesn't need to be a squeaky clean babyface, and Alexa Bliss is so over that pretending she's just an overt heel seems foolish. I think that's cool, and I'm actually genuinely looking forward to that match at Stomping Grounds, which is, I guess, a victory for the show. It made me want to see a match on the show.
Yeah, I think Alexa rocks. And I'm real proud that the whole world is obsessed with coffee, but it's not a fucking power drink. And I kind of wish people would shut the fuck up about me drinking power drinks while they're best friends with Starbucks and their whole day revolves around drinking coffee.
Yeah, people always got something to say about it, usually when they're smoking a cigarette or drinking a cup of coffee.
Yeah, or doing 15 minutes of cardio and writing about it on Twitter. So, like you said, Alexa's angle, whether, the gray area and her relationship with Nikki and Bayley kind of teetering on getting away from the squeaky clean image. I'm into all of that. What I am not into is every single angle having some hint of comedy. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I mean, I don't see how you couldn't. But over the past couple of weeks, but especially this week, this whole entire thing so far makes it seem like I don't like WWE, and especially because we're on the internet talking about wrestling, and we talk pretty well about AEW, and we just came all over the New Japan stuff. In all actuality, I have really high expectations for WWE because I always want WWE to be number one and to be the best. So because I want that, I think maybe that's why I'm more critical of it, or maybe just because I don't like telling lies. But the amount of comedy that goes into every single angle in some way, shape, or form is just really starting to drive me crazy. I really don't want to feel like I'm watching a sitcom when I'm watching wrestling. Every so often, the entire 24/7 championship and that whole title picture can be comedy, and that's totally fine. I like that there's, a lot of comedy in the Firefly Funhouse, Firehouse Young Guns. I love that. But every single angle has a little bit of comedy, and this whole segment really almost kind of put me over the edge with it, where it's like, I get it, Alexa is a heel, but she's bubbly and everybody loves her, and Bayley is what she is, and the whole social media manipulation, there's room for comedy in there. But just because there is room for comedy doesn't mean everything has to have that comedy. I'm just kind of sick of that. I would love for at least half of the show to just be serious. The whole thing is based around physical violence. So I understand why there always has to be some sort of comedy thrown into everything.
Yeah, I understand that, especially when the premise is, that the end result is they're going to be beating each other up, so it should be a little bit more serious. Like I said, I love that AJ the Club promo. It starts off kind of making jokes, then AJ's like, no, seriously, you guys got to get your shit together. So it's not like it has no place, but it doesn't have every place. So
yeah, exactly. But a comedy thing that I did like, I don't know, well, I'm sure you caught on to it. We all caught on to it because we're fucking smart! The flag-waving sheep herder reference that Corey Graves made.
Oh my god, no, it was Daniel Bryan.
Now that is something that I do like.
Everything Daniel Bryan said on commentary on this next match, which was the Heavy Machinery versus the B Team, is incredible. Not only does Daniel Bryan is he just naturally funny, which is crazy. You got to remember, you don't got to do anything, but you should remember that when he came into WWE, the thing that everybody didn't like about him or said about him was that he didn't have any personality, and he wasn't good on the mic, and he wasn't a good character. He was just a good technical wrestler, and there couldn't be anyone better on the mic or a better character at this point. And I don't even know that was true about him then, but now it's indisputable. It's undisputed era Adam Cole Bebe that it's not true now. And I mean, he not only makes an incredible Sheep Herders reference, he also buries Coco Beware because he's like, because Corey says, the Bushwhackers are in the Hall of Fame. He goes, yeah, Coco Beware's in the Hall of Fame too. But more importantly than all of that, he puts Heavy Machinery over while still saying that he doesn't like them and that he definitely will beat them, which I think is a lost art of commentary in general, but just especially wrestlers doing commentary, because usually when wrestlers do commentary, it's pretty abysmal. But the fact that he goes on and on about how each member of Heavy Machinery, is like a former champion in either collegiate wrestling or things of that nature, and how strong and tough they are, but that they're just so goofy that he can't take them seriously. I think that's sick. One thing that I do not think is sick, even a little bit, and you alluded to it earlier, is that Rowan has a Corrosion of Conformity shirt on from 2018, which is Posed and Exposed. All right, don't even pretend like you liked that album from last year, and if you did, then you don't even like Corrosion of Conformity. And the only COC that matters in my life is the Carnival of Carnage, so I have no respect for that cutoff shirt that he was wearing this week.
Animosity, the first Corrosion of Conformity full length. That's my shit.
I was real into Deliverance, which I think is
also a good record. So Dan O'Brien and everybody talking about Heavy Machinery. So he goes to do the Caterpillar, and they're talking about that. Dan O'Brien's...
He goes, I would have just moved.
Are you kidding me? I just move.
It's so
Perfect. But hey, man, Heavy Machinery are the weirdest shapes ever. I love that one dude is just a red circle. And I think it's great. I've gone so back and forth with this team so many times since they started on NXT. In the beginning, I was like, oh, they're like a throwback to some fucked up regional 80s tag team. I love it. And then I decided, you know what? It's a circle and some fat guy. I hate this shit. And then I realized, oh, it's a circle and just a big dude. They kind of rule. So as of right now, I'm pretty sure that I think the team is a fun team to watch on TV. I really hope that they're not planning on giving them a run with the titles yet. I think it's too early, and I think it's going to diminish the titles, of which, not that it really matters at this point, but I think it's too early to give them a run with the titles. But I think giving them a shot on a pay-per-view and all this shit, I think that's really cool. I think, like you said, Brian's doing a great job of putting them over. I'm really glad that Rowan still doesn't talk. Hopefully soon he won't have a job.
That actually was the coolest part about them being on commentary is Rowan puts on a headset, says no words, which I loved. I legitimately thought that was cool.
Yeah. I think, of course, the B team is sick. It's too bad that they're kind of in the position that they're in, but at least they're doing something. I think both those guys are legit good as WWE professional wrestlers. I love that Curtis Axel is not good at speaking, but from my point of view, it works, especially when he has Bo as the foil, who is good at speaking. So Curtis kind of being shitty, I think it works with his character as of right now. Granted, he hasn't been given something serious to do since, day one, essentially. I think the only gimmick he's had, aside from the B team, is the fact that at one point he put on a baseball hat backwards with no logo on it.
He also had the Axelmania.
See, that was something that I do like.
Yeah, that actually is what not only got him over in general, but got him over with me and made me realize the thing that you just said, that he's not good at talking, but like in a way that actually is in fact good. It kind of has him stand out. And I love Bo. Bo's one of my favorite wrestlers in general. His NXT run is one of my favorite character arcs of all time. And yeah, the two of them, if they really had something to do, maybe individually instead of together at this point, I'll take whatever they'll give them. And like you said, too, I mean, the fact that they were even on the show was cool. And a good team for Heavy Machinery to face off against, not somebody that has no credibility, former tag team champions. but a team that, if they lose, no one's going to care. I agree with you that I hope that Heavy Machinery doesn't necessarily get a run with the titles, especially since I don't think Daniel Bryan should lose any championship for the rest of his life. But also, I think they can still get way over in a losing effort. And they still need to get over more as far as, they haven't even got to do the stakes and weights catchphrase on TV yet, which should be a big deal. But
is Dennis Knight Henry Godwin's son?
It's Tucker Knight.
Fuck, Dennis Knight is Henry Godwin's real name, right? I assumed that Tucker Knight was Dennis Knight, who was Phineas Godwin and Midian. I assumed it was his son because they look very similar. But in all actuality, Tucker Knight looks more like Henry Godwin, who is not actually Phineas Godwin's brother. And it looks like none of them are related. Tucker Knight has nothing to do with Dennis Knight. I'm actually really surprised. I could have swore that he was the son of a hog farmer. So maybe I don't like him as much. Jesus Christ, Tucker Knight is so young. The first pay-per-view he was even alive for was SummerSlam 90. He wasn't even alive for Great American
alive for.
Yo, real quick, or maybe not quick.
Slowly.
Axel was with Paul Heyman for a while, right? Way back.
That's how he came in. So he came in with Paul Heyman, and he beat Triple H 2 times in a row, but both were hokey as hell. And then he got the IC title. And then, but that was when he was McGillicuddy.
That feels like 5 lifetimes away.
Not McGillicuddy. That's when he got renamed from McGillicuddy, because he was in NXT.
Yeah, Joe McGillicuddy, right?
It wasn't even Joe McGillicuddy. It was Michael McGillicuddy.
That is just the worst name in the history of names, aside from every other name that they use.
His name is Joe Henning. They made him Michael McGillicuddy on NXT back when NXT was a show on Sci-Fi. And
that's what it was when it was American Ninja Next.
Right. So then after the Nexus 2.0 ended, they brought him in as the new quote-unquote Paul Heyman guy as Curtis Axel, and explained his name being Curtis Axel between Kurt Hennig and what Kurt Hennig's dad is the Axe or something, right?
Yeah, Larry the Axe.
So yeah, he had this weird feud with Triple H, and then Triple H just annihilated him after he lost by count out 2 times or something, and then just kind of never recovered from that. Had the Axelmania thing and did that with Sandow pretending to be Macho Man, so they did like a fake Mega Powers, and then he was part of the Miz Taraj, which evolved into the B Team, and now he's losing to Heavy Machinery on SmackDown Live.
So I bring that up because there's a thing that goes in and out of vogue with WWE, more out over the past 20 years or so. But older managers, I think, is especially now, a lot of these guys could really, really use. And not just somebody like Axel, who I don't know if he necessarily needs it anymore. Not that he couldn't use it. But I made note earlier that I really think Ziggler could use an older, experienced manager. Now, I know everybody in the world thinks Ziggler is, obviously just the best across the board, but they also think he's great on the mic, which, he's neither, but he could talk. But you know who else could talk? A lot of the guys that Bobby Heenan managed. So I think somebody like Ziggler could really use a manager just to kind of help him along and legitimize him as an actual in-ring threat a little bit more, especially Rude, because I think Ziggler might have some parallels to Rick Rude, even though I think Rude is far, far superior to Dolph Ziggler across the board. But obviously Rude didn't need a manager, but his combination with Heenan was really, really perfect, and I think made both of them bigger than they were aside. Not that Heenan really needed Rude, but I don't think Rude needed Heenan, but I think it did well for him. But I really think with Ziggler's waning and fucking boring gimmicks, he could use somebody. And off the top of my head, I thought, think about this. Imagine if Ziggler started coming to the ring with Bischoff as a manager. Just a little bit more of a heat seeker, a guy who's experienced, so he's already legitimized to people in the know. And if people aren't in the know, Bischoff is so good on the mic and just with his mannerisms and his little bit of physical activity, there's obviously fantasy booking and, a bit of a pipe dream. But I think even Bischoff with his age now would be even better as a wrestling manager than he was back in the day.
Yeah, I think Bischoff on TV doing anything as a character would be awesome, especially as a manager. So I definitely don't disagree with that. But when you said Rude, the first thing I thought of was like, hey, remember when Bobby Roode became Bob Roode a couple weeks ago, and he had that Tom Selleck mustache? Where did he go?
Oh man, it's just another guy I don't even want to say drowning in the mid card because he's barely even in the mid card. What he shows up running around after R-Truth every so often, but what a waste of talent that is right now. And this dumbass wild card rule is making it even harder.
Oh
So you
my
have
God.
all these super tippy top guys that are just dominating both shows. So there's no time for anyone else, especially even when there is time for other people. They're wasting so much of that time with 20, 30-minute promos instead of throwing out a bunch of matches. It's interesting because this was a thing I complained about, not a ton, but a little bit in the 90s, where the matches were shorter and there was, more and more microphone stuff and less in-ring stuff. And now it's a thing that I think they should learn from. 30 seconds of a promo and 5 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe 6 minutes of a match. You can get a lot done in that time if it's used properly. These guys could really, really flourish and make something happen in that time, or at least build towards something, instead of having Drew McIntyre on screen again for another 4 minutes doing a backstage promo, which is in a way overexposing his character with less and less in-ring work, kind of demeaning everything.
Well, and then the weirdest part of the show acknowledges that it's making these terrible mistakes, and Miz comes out and cuts a promo on Shane McMahon about how SmackDown's supposed to be the land of opportunity, and Shane McMahon said that, the audience is the authority, and they're really not, and Shane McMahon's actually the whole show on both nights, which is a weird thing to acknowledge when you're not going to fix it, but that's the next segment that happens here, and that leads to a match between R-Truth and The Miz versus Elias and Drew McIntyre. The best part of this whole match, though, is actually, I don't know if you saw it, but there's an online-only video of a segment, I guess, in between commercial breaks where Miz is convincing R-Truth to be his partner, and R-Truth says, I'm certifiably insane. Actually, what the direct quote is, I'm legally insane. And that really rocks.
Yeah, that rocks.
This match did not rock, though, and it actually just made me kind of sad, and I'm frowning right now. The two best parts of the whole show are backstage segments, which...
where two different tag teams in a row stole your gimmick?
Yeah, exactly. So, first of all, the Iconics meet up with the Kabuki Warriors in the hallway, and Paige says that the Kabuki Warriors, who are Kairi Sane and Asuka, my two best friends, are going to face the Iconics in a non-title match in Tokyo, Japan. Kairi hears the word Tokyo and is like, hey, I know that word, and yells it, which is sick. And it seems like the biggest layup ever that the two Japanese stars are going to beat the Iconics in Japan. But then they do the Iconics pose, and when they do the Iconics pose, the Iconics go, oh my God. Like, they're just so disgusted with them doing the pose that it really sold it for me. But more importantly than all that, probably the most important moment in wrestling history, if we're being honest, and I like a little honesty on the show now and then. We see Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville backstage eating donuts, talking about how crazy it is that they're so hot and eat so many donuts. And if that's not just my avatar on a wrestling show, I don't know what is. Two babes eating donuts, talking about being hot and eating donuts. I mean, that's me. That's me. That's a GPOI, guys. Ember Moon walks up, and for a while I didn't understand Ember Moon's character, because at first it was like, hey, I'm a werewolf person. And then I was like, hey, I play Nintendo, but I also wear weird contacts. But I finally figured it out. Ember Moon is a furry. She dresses up as an animal, but is just a human. It's not that she's a werewolf. She just wears a wolf costume. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a huge community of people like that. So Ember Moon is real mad that... have you ever seen her boyfriend has a shirt that he wears that says King of the Black Women?
Oh, so speaking of things that I guess aren't racist but just seem totally racist,
Yeah.
Kairi Sane and Asuka being called the Kabuki Warriors. All right, I don't know how many Conrad Thompson podcasts that you listen to, but I deliver for a living. So I'm in a car most of the day, and I just ingest wrestling podcasts because there's only so much Slayer you could listen to. So referring to things as kabuki-ish and all this shit, that's like one of Pritchard's go-to sayings. So of course he's working for the company now, and they just put Asuka and Kairi together because you have these two world-famous athletes that have just dominated in their division. Oh, we don't know what else to do with them. Oh, they're Japanese. Put them together. Oh, they're Japanese. Call them the Kabuki Warriors.
I thought the same thing, but then someone tried to explain it to me that Kabuki is actually like not racist or whatever. But I feel like perception is reality, and when you're calling a team the Kabuki Warriors, and the majority of people, whether they're right or not, think that sounds like something disrespectful, it's probably not a good idea to stick with.
And the great Kabuki, who eventually in one way bastard spawned the great Muda. So especially in wrestling circles, there's nothing racist about it whatsoever. But I guess, so one time we were on a flight from New York to Australia. So New York is, obviously a big hub for international flight. So we wind up with a couple of weird rednecks on the flight. And because it's an Australian airline flying back and forth to New York, if you know anything about the Earth, Australia is very close to Asia, which is inhabited with many, many different types of Asians. So the flight attendants are Asian. The first thing that I hear when we get off the flight from two rednecks that I noticed on the flight the entire time from New York was the woman says to her husband, "Oh, lots of kabuki on that flight, huh?" So I guess just from that point on, I always think of kabuki as a racist term. I really hate that they're called the Kabuki Warriors. And I hate that they're even a tag team.
Yeah, I agree, because they're two. I mean, I love them, so them being together isn't a problem for me. But they're two single stars.
Exactly.
They're absolute stars too. I know that's a running theme where we talk about people presenting themselves as a star. Those are two people that can move merchandise, can get people in the seats, and I just think that putting them together and calling them Kabuki Warriors back to back are just two incredibly lazy things to do. So,
but all that aside, I am absolutely looking forward to seeing them and the Iconics have a match.
I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them winning the tag team championships, just because it doesn't look like the Iconics are going to do anything with it. And I love the Iconics too, so I'm not saying that anything disparaging to them, but it just doesn't look like whatever they were going to do, they're not going to do. So at least I feel like Kairi and Asuka will have matches with more people, and can guarantee those matches will be good, because they're going to make you at least either have a good match or get hit in the face for real. And both of those things are something that I do like. Then the show ends mercifully with the 2 out of 3 falls tag team match of the two singles champions, Kofi Kingston from Ghana, South Africa, formerly of Kingston, Jamaica, and Seth Rollins, formerly Tyler Black of Slipknot. And they faced Kevin Steen and El Generico.
You're fucking killing me right now.
On Smackdown Live in the go-home show main event for Stomping Grounds. And what do you think that did for the show?
Dude, these are just 4 great wrestlers put in a who gives a fuck situation with who gives a shit amount of time, with no one in the world knows what the fuck the stakes are. Doesn't matter. It's really too bad. This could have been something really cool, and instead it was a fucking shit on the floor at a church.
Well, the worst place to shit, everybody knows that.
Yeah, on the floor in a church. Wait, you know what we forgot to mention that happened on one of these shows? I don't know if this really...
Jordan was on the truck when Shane McMahon came into the building.
I didn't even notice that. At one point, I was washing dishes during SmackDown. But one thing that I washed dishes through, but I realized that happened, that I wanted to...
Oh, I hope it's Aleister Black, because we...
It is.
Okay.
Yes. That... Who gives a fuck, man? Just this... So here is a guy who may or... I don't know, he's supposed to be from the Netherlands, which he might be from, and he might not. He sounds like he's, from Connecticut. So he's gotten in a lot better shape, over the past couple of months. So that's really great, because I thought he was in kind of blah shape for a while. And I think his kicks look really, really good. But aside from that, man, he just does nothing for me across the board. I hated that they brought him in with Ricochet. It made me just I wasn't a big fan of either one of them separate, put them together, and it was like, oh man, they're just trying to make me hate both of these guys. But these promos, what the fuck? All right, hey, I'm Spooky. I'm not really the Undertaker because I'm just, a regular dude. Man, will someone just please come and fight me? Hey, you know what? Maybe show up to the arena, get in the fucking ring and say, hey, will someone fight me? And then you'll have a match. Like, sitting down and I don't know, man. I hate this shit. I don't know where they're going with it. I hope that they're just going nowhere with it.
Yeah, I mean, not only are these promos never-ending, similar to the Bray Wyatt ones, which almost makes me think that maybe that's the first program they're going to do. Bray's catchphrase is, let me in, and Alistair's catchphrase is, come and knock on my door. But the thing about Alistair's promos, besides them being never-ending in the length of time that they've been going on, is he talks like William Shatner in Star Trek Season 1.
Don't you dare compare one of the greatest Americans in the history of anything with Aleister Black. Come on, man. William Shatner?
Yeah, they should call him Captain Alistair.
If they gave him a Star Trek gimmick, I might be into it.
I think that'd be sick. And have they done that? I mean, in wrestling, do we have a space traveler gimmick in the WWE at any point in time?
Not that I know of. I know in 1990, Black Scorpion came out in a UFO at Starrcade 90, so Ric Flair flew from Mars. But earlier in 1990,
Flair was Black Scorpion? I thought it was Anderson.
Oh, it was Rick the fuck Flair.
Oh, holy shit.
Under that mask. It was Ole Anderson's voice.
Oh, okay.
But in September of 1990, there was a character called Starblazer. It was Tim Horner in a red mask, and he bounced around like some type of fool. But I think as far as I know, so the Black Scorpion, I guess, was kind of from Star Trek, and Starblazer was from the stars a little bit. We had Max Moon. So I guess 1990, there was 3 potential aliens, and I guess...
Oh, you know what? Stardust.
Yeah, Stardust is from Star Trek.
Oh, guys, that's going to do it for SmackDown and Raw. I want to say I hope you enjoyed us reviewing it, but there's no way you did, so I apologize. And not in advance, because it's over now, so I apologize in retrospect. But next week, we're going to be reviewing Stomping Grounds, which should at least be funnier and more fun. And then the following week, we're going to be doing an all-questions show. What? All questions? I can't believe it. I get to talk to my heroes, Ryan and Rick, and ask them questions about their lives in wrestling. Yes, your dreams have come true. So make sure you send us those questions at Stiff Shots Pod on Twitter or Instagram. Also on Facebook, Stiff Shots Podcast. So what a treat for you. That's our 4th of July gift to you. But until then, as always, fuck Amazon and Rockstar Rules. Goodbye.